Hello! We're back with a video that's not a reaction. I know that I promised a history of the Sontarans quite a long time ago, but it's taking a lot longer than expected, and it'll probably be twice as long as the Paradigm one, and editing it will be an absolute nightmare. So I thought, why not make a video on one of my favourite things in Doctor Who, DVD box sets. Now for some rules. I won't be including Blu-ray sets or full series collections, which means no, I won't be including the classic Blu-ray remasters, as let's be honest, they'd all be in first place. And before we begin, I have some honourable mentions that sadly did not make the list. The Dalek Collection, The Beginning, the 4th Doctor Time Capsule, since it's not really a box set, it only has one DVD, The Road to the Dark Times Collection, it's in Blu-ray, but it has a pretty good lineup, and finally, The Trial of a Time Lord. I enjoy it, but it's not really that brilliant, is it? So, without further ado, onto the list. At 5th best, we have Beneath the Surface. A box set you can't go wrong with at all. With the Silurians, Sea Devils and Warriors Deep, it's got an enjoyable start, middle, and a not so great end, which definitely doesn't feature genocide. The Silurians, a great story of caves, moral choices, and lizard people from the dawn of time. The Sea Devils, the Silurians, but it's their warrior cousins, and the Master's up to his devious antics against the Royal Navy. What else could you ask for? Well, except Daleks. And finally, Warriors Deep. A story that isn't too liked, with an underwater base under attack, hibernating Silurians being awoken, and a genocide at the end of the story. Pretty good. At number 4 we have a controversial one. The Key to Time Quintilogy. Yes, I know this is a full series collection, but it's my video, deal with it. A lot of people don't like the Key to Time, I'm not one of them. We've got some great stories lined up. The Ribos Operation, a funny slapstick heist with lovable characters and a castle setting. The Pirate Planet, a terrible, comedic and mental story about hollow planets, not that one, and a cyborg crazy pirate captain thing. The Stones of Blood, gothic horror house or courtroom drama. How about both? The Androids of Tara, a period piece that's actually in the future, featuring androids, obviously. The Power of Kroll, nature versus man, except nature is a giant monster and man are a bunch of oil drillers. And finally, The Armageddon Factor, a story that, while is 2 parts too long, has a conclusive and satisfying end to the series. 6 discs, a new companion, and a key to time itself. What more could you want? Number 3, Mannequin Mania. A 2-part box set featuring Spearhead from Space, a brilliant opening to the 3rd Doctor, with Hugh Burden as Channing, which is one of the best performances I've ever seen. The 2nd disc is Terror of the Autons, not only the first appearance of the Master and Joe Grant, but the return of the Autons and lots of death. Oh, and also funnily bad CGI. At number 2, the Peladon Tales. Honestly, they're both absolute masterpieces. The Curse of Peladon, a story with an excellent atmosphere, Ice Warriors who are misjudged as the villains, Alpha Centauri, Agador, and best of all, a Venusian lullaby. And of course, the Monster of Peladon, where this time the Ice Warriors actually are the villains, and the king is now dead. Oh, and his daughter's taken over as the queen. And the crisis is more like man versus nature, so it's kinda similar to the Power of Kroll, but it's really not. And finally, number 1, the Davros Collection. My god, what's not to love? Not only does it have every Davros story from Genesis to Remembrance, it also has every Big Finish story with them in, from 2007 before of course. A box set so perfect, it's number 1 on my list. The only downside is it's a limited stock. Only 10,000 were made, and they go for about 45 quid on eBay, which isn't terrible for what you get. Though it was really cheaper to just buy it all separately, and I don't have a CD player, so that one's kind of out the window. But even then, an absolutely fantastic box set. But anyway, now for the worst. At number 5 we have The Chameleon Tales. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't actually seen either of these stories, but from what I've heard, they are not very good. And of course, they're the only 2 to feature Chameleon, a companion so obscure barely anyone talks about him or even considers him a companion. He didn't appear much because his main operator sadly passed away in a boating accident, meaning nobody knew how to operate him since he didn't leave any notes, though it's probably best this box set isn't any bigger. And also, Chameleon's cursed, just putting that out there. You're next to go, John Culshaw. At number 4 we have New Beginnings. Now honestly, I don't hate New Beginnings. I mean, I've named a series after it, but the episodes in it are just not very good at all. Keeper of Traken. The Master's back and he's quite good, but he's also a statue, and still crispy, and in a boring story. So overall, not brilliant for him. Logopolis. Boring as hell. The only interesting thing to happen is Tom falling off a radio telescope. Shame this is the way that he went out. And finally, Castrovalva. A story I actually quite enjoy. A calming plot at the beginning, and a boatload of mysteries asked and solved by the end. And it's also Peter Davison's first. At number 3, the E-Space trilogy. Honestly, it's just not that good, is it? You've got Full Circle, a boring runaround that by the end lives up to its name. You have the same outlook at the end that you did at the beginning, that it's absolutely terrible. State of Decay, a hidden gem in my opinion. It's honestly quite a good story in its own right, and an interesting story at that. A peek into part of ancient Gallifrey, and some fantastic acting by the vampires. And finally, Warrior's Gate, a trippy, wacky roller coaster of a story. It's mediocre at best. Now I know what you're thinking, but if there's one bad story, one good and one in the middle, why is this third worst? Well, my dear viewer, I have one word for you. Adric, the most loved companion to ever exist. At number 2, the Black Guardian trilogy. Good God, could you get a box set more tragic? Spoilers, you actually can. We'll start from the beginning. Mordrin Undead, the second biggest contributor to the unit dating controversy, and introducer of this guy. Also has this scene, which is just really trippy and probably should have had an epilepsy warning. Terminus, the last story to have a 4-person TARDIS team, which is a plus, but it's also extremely grim. Except here's the kicker, nobody dies. And finally, Enlightenment, a space version of Steel Ball Run with sailing yachts instead of horses. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not brilliant either. And finally, the number 1 worst Doctor Who box set is Time Flight and Arc of Infinity. So bad they didn't even spell it right on the merchandise website. We'll begin with Time Flight. I mean, I just can't. Everyone knows why this is bad. I watched it with my grandparents and they both agreed it was horrible. And they're not even Doctor Who fans. The only good thing is that I was actually surprised by that. Spoiler, the Master's in it. I had no idea that he even appeared. And finally, Arc of Infinity. A story that, just like the Black Guardian trilogy, shoves an old villain into the story just because it's the 20th anniversary. Oh god, Omega, what did they do to you? But anyway guys, that's my list for the 5 best and worst Doctor Who box sets. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.